I don't even know. Is that a ring impersonation? Does she ever say that? Or is that just on the phone? Anyways, welcome to the FF Forge. My name is Steve. Getting ready for Halloween. A little excitement starting to sink in. Hoping to catch the new Hellraiser movie out there. If anybody saw that, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. Is it going to be worth my time? Because my time's precious right now. Alright, these are the tight end rankings. I have released the wide receiver, running back, quarterback, and now the tight end rankings as we get into the evening of Wednesday. So please drop a like, subscribe, do whatever. I appreciate whatever it is that you do, and if you don't do anything, well, that's fine. So if this is the first time here, just real quick, these are my projected rankings. That means there is a number that you are actually not seeing there on the screen here, which has projected what order the players are going to finish in by the end of the week. But then there are floors and ceilings here. These are good to look at if you are looking specifically to pick a safer player, or you feel that you need a boom player from your tight end spot in this case, then you can go and look at those ceilings. The expected range is the range that there's a 50% chance or more that these players are going to finish the week within that range, hence the expected range. And then way over here is the temperature gauge. This is just several factors. It's more factors for the wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs than it is for the quarterbacks. There's a little bit of more, some of the advanced stats as far as the players' production, how good or bad they've done with their opportunities as well, included in these temperature gauges, as well as some things like the Vegas line has an influence on these in a few ways. So it's just is this, are we thinking that these players are going to have a good week and maybe have a ceiling week, or is it going to be, in the case of a Travis Kelce, definitely not you just never expect a bust week, but hey, maybe it's just going to be a more normal week here going up against Buffalo. There's enough factors that are working against, not in favor of Travis Kelce this week, that you're just not going to be expecting a 4-touchdown game from him. Then again, going up against Buffalo, definitely that ceiling's there. I mean, you see right here, 30 points ceiling, which is crazy after he had that 4-touchdown week that it's that low. But it's Buffalo. Luckily, they're a little bit banged up, so that should help things out for him. But my projections know what they've done for the past few weeks. Other than that, let's just get into it. We're just going to mostly ignore this. I'll reference it for a reason here or there why I have my players ranked like I do. Now, what we are going to look at is the players that I have the largest difference in the positive or negative compared to ECR, the expert consensus rankings from fantasypros.com. It's something that I've always found, I don't know about helpful, but useful. My top 12 tight ends are Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, Tyler Higbee, David Njoku. Crazy he's up here already this far. Zach Ertz, Gerald Everett, Kyle Pitts in at 8, Taysom Hill in at 9. Now I kept him at 8 just to keep these the differences that between the two more accurate, since Kyle Pitts obviously his ECR won't be 31 if he's good to go this week. I know he did get involved in practice here on Wednesday, so it's looking pretty good for Kyle Pitts with that hamstring, although that should reduce his productivity by some which. Been a rough year, but I'll explain his ranking. So Taysom Hill at 9 in my rankings, 10 for Hayden Hurst, Evan Ingram 11, and Will Dissly at 12. So Kyle Pitts, I do have fairly high, in part trusting that ceiling that is there over here in his projections. And that's not all of the story, though. So San Francisco allows a fair amount of receptions, just not for a heck of a lot of yards. I had to make a cutoff for Taysom Hill. Let's speak on Taysom Hill. He broke my rankings. Look at this. This is not supposed to happen. The expected range is higher than the ceiling. I don't have the proper inputs to account for everything that Taysom Hill does. However, the projection for him took into account definitely the touchdowns. So liked him enough. And so my task was to decide at what point am I willing to risk this very real zero floor in order to take advantage of his ceiling, which, once again, my projections didn't understand how to do that. So yeah, I'm still gonna go with the guaranteed stuff that Kyle Pitts is gonna offer me. You know, that San Francisco defense is a little bit banged up. It should help things. I'm willing to start Kyle Pitts over Taysom Hill. And if you own both of them, you're probably a Taysom Hill believer. So go right ahead and do it if you feel better with Taysom Hill. That's how I have them ranked. And then Will Dissly, I have in at 11. He is the ECR 16, so I have him 5 spots ahead of the ECR. Now, as you will see, it's a touchdown thing here. Thinking Seattle going to go up against Arizona, there's a pretty decent chance that Will Dissly will continue his high amounts of touchdowns this week. So once you get to the back end of tight ends, it's all you can hope for, really. That's what you're hoping for, is a touchdown from him. So my rankings, my projected rankings, like that from him this week, and so do I. And they even have it's like more factors working in Will Dissly's favor. It's probably really directly to his production, like his advanced production stats than anything, I would guess. But yeah, I'm okay with Will Dissly there. I may move him back 1 spot here, and that would be to George Kittle. I have George Kittle ranked 6th. He is the ECR. No, I have him 12. He is the ECR 6. So I have him 6 spots behind ECR. I do believe having him at 6th is like a bit high, but he's going up against Atlanta, so it's understandable. He does have a cold gauge on the old thermostat over here, probably the exact opposite of Will Dissly, just because he hasn't had many. His advanced stats for his production aren't exactly great, but it does have a high floor here, so that's nice to see, and a decent enough expected range, a little higher than Will Dissly's. So once again, I may use my brain over my projections and move George Kittle above, but for now, I stuck with the projection on that one because once again, I want a touchdown at this point in the rankings. Like once we get past Kyle Pitts, I'm thinking the only way that they're good this week is a touchdown. So unfortunate that George Kittle's entered that territory, but you're still trusting him and playing him. Then Cole Kmet, I have in at 13. The ECR is 17 on him, so I have him 4 spots ahead of the ECR. Do I like that? No, but have noticed a trend upwards for 2 weeks straight now for Cole Kmet. For that offense in general, maybe a week and a half, has just been starting to get its groove. Its groove is still going to look something like, I can't show this, but Crispin Glover, if you've ever seen him dance in the in the Friday the 13th 4? Friday the 13th part 4. That's what the Giants will look like if they get their groove this year. It's not going to be pretty, but at times it's going to capture your eye and be like, that's neat, that was good. I don't know what that was, but that was good. And Cole Kmet could be on the receiving end of some of those plays. And it's a tight end hellscape. So, yeah, that's where I end up putting him. Let's get on to Daniel Bellinger, who I have ranked at 16. The ECR on him is 20. I'm really just trusting the old thermometer on this one. Going up against Baltimore, there should be plenty of opportunity. Still a limited amount of wide receivers to be targeting, and I think the touchdown is definitely in play for him this week. So moved him up above some others who I don't feel as confident that they're as high up on the pecking order for those touchdowns, and I feel that there's even potentially more opportunities for a touchdown in that game going up against Baltimore. Not been the best defense this year. Robert Tonyan and Irv Smith. Robert Tonyan I have at 19th. The ECR has him at 13. Irv Smith I have him at 20. ECR's at 12. I have to assume that Irv Smith is that highly ranked because hey, it's Miami and it's going to be a high-scoring game? I mean, it definitely could be, especially if Teddy Bridgewater's back. So I assume that's the logic there. I totally understand it. I'm going with my rankings with what we've seen this year. There are just guys that I would rather have than him, and I don't think he's a must start, that's for sure. I will point out, as far as the expected range goes, especially his the bottom half of his expected range is pretty nice compared, puts him up into closer to like 15-ish there, and on the higher end of the bad expected ranges. So, there are some things that even the stats like enough about him this week, but not going up for it. And Robert Tonyan have seen some slight positive movement on his usage the last 2 weeks, over the last 2 weeks, actually. I guess that's the same thing. This is the same story as Irv Smith. It's a good matchup. That's what people are looking at. And even my thermostat says it's a decent matchup compared to Irv Smith, which it didn't quite say that on the other side of neutral. It could definitely be there, but I just like some of the upside of some of these other guys, and or trust the old the old stats here. Mo Alie-Cox, I might drop down here. That's probable. I'm not sure why I put Mo Alley up here. Who are they playing against? Jacksonville. I'll probably move Mo Alie-Cox down behind those guys. Maybe even behind Cade Otton. Cade Otton, I almost wanted to move up quite a bit further, but ends up being right around ECR for me. So let's move on to Noah Fant, who I have ranked 22nd. The ECR on him is 18, so I'm 4 spots below on him. We did see some positive signs last week for Noah Fant. Let me say that properly, Fant. And Arizona does pretty good against tight ends. So that leaves us with Dalton Schultz. I have him in at 23rd. He is 29th by the ECR. I can only assume that has to do with the fact that Dalton Schultz was banged up a fair bit last week. Maybe some people think that he won't play again. He did come back and play in the game, though. I haven't followed the injury news a whole lot here early on in the week. I'll catch up with it into tomorrow when things start to matter. So I don't know. Maybe other news came out on him, but not really. A ringing endorsement here. Logan Thomas, if he were to play, really like that ceiling, and he would. It's a good matchup, right? Going up against Chicago, not the best matchup in the world, but there is a good ceiling with it at least. He might bump some of these guys back. So back end starter / high end flex option. Same with Dawson Knox, and actually I would feel a little bit more confident in playing him just because that's for sure a high scoring matchup there with Buffalo going up against KC. So really like that ceiling and would be happy to start him this week. I know Dawson Knox owners are rolling their eyes, but if he's up on the bench and you need a tight end up on the waiver wire and you need a tight end this week, bada boom, go for it. Or if you're rocking like Robert Tonyan, Irv Smith, and Dawson Knox, I'll take Dawson Knox over those guys all day. That is it for the tight ends. Thank you very much for stopping in. I don't recall what I said at the beginning. So if you want updated rankings, you can find them at www.theFFForge.com. There is a link down in the description. I'm sorry if that's the second time I've said that in this video, but I think I started weirdly because that whole thing. 7 days. So, yeah.